We've been called in to look at a deck which has exhibited signs of rot. Unfortunately for this homeowner, this deck has been replaced over the life of the building 4 times already, and that's over a 20-year period. So this is really a problematic situation. It was generally thought in the past, with good reason, that perhaps the wall was leaking, the siding was leaking, and water was getting behind the vinyl deck and causing the rot underneath it. So the last 3 replacements, that's what was undertaken, was to remove the siding, put a new vinyl deck on, and then put new siding on. And the last time that work was done, it was done quite well, with an effort to stop the water getting under there permanently. Unfortunately, that was not the main problem, if it was even ever the problem. The issue was condensation on the underside of the vinyl decking from the living spaces below. So we'll take a look at how that's happened and what we can do to make it better. One of the issues that suggested we might have a wall leak was that the homeowner had noticed at the base of the patio door, just on one half, there was moisture accumulating and mold growing on the inside of the aluminum patio door frame. The more we've removed things and had a look at the structure underneath and understood the dynamics of the vapor barrier condensing where it has, the more convinced we've become that the vapor was also condensing on the underside of the patio door and causing that problem. So it looked like a leak, but in fact it was just condensation from vapor, and it actually was from the floor below, not even from the living space where this patio door is mounted. So our recommendation to the homeowner is to replace this aluminum patio door with a vinyl framed patio door to reduce the likelihood of any condensation in the future. Now we'll look a little more closely at some of the actual details with the vapor barrier that was in place. Here, for example, you'll see that there's a seam where one sheet of plastic meets another and they overlap. Now normally that seam should be taped shut to keep air from slipping by there and carrying moisture with it. But you can see this was not taped at all, and you can see in the immediate area lots of signs of moisture. We get over to the other side here. Again, there are more joints in the poly and signs of a great deal of moisture accumulating. It's important to understand that air moves through buildings when it's allowed to, and with it it carries moisture. When that moisture stays at room temperature, there's no problem generally. But when it cools, when it gets to the outside of the building assembly, then it'll condense on the surface that's coldest and eventually drip and can cause deterioration. Now, there's a couple different sources for that. Probably the primary source was just latent moisture in the air in the living space below, migrating up through cracks and gaps in the poly, and being trapped when it hit the cold surface of the vinyl decking above. That then led to condensation there and rotted the plywood terribly. You can see from our photos that there's a great deal of mold and growth there that's very unhealthy and of course compromised the plywood. It's important to recognize that most of the problem here was caused by moisture from the living spaces below. Now here's another source of moisture, a very specific one, and this is a bathroom fan duct moving out through the insulated cavity, and you can see that there's lots of room for moisture, which we know is contained in bathroom air when it's exhausted, to leak out into the cavities. Duct tape was used to seal this, and it's just not the proper product for sealing ducting. You can see how easily that pulls away, and you can see that it wasn't even in place on all the seams in the ducting. These are the kind of details that lead to problems if they're not executed properly. Hope you found this interesting, seeing how these moisture issues work and can cause problems in a building assembly. And if you'd like to tune in for future blogs, we'll show you our actual repair process.